The Rogue Researcher, and the Lone Wolves Society, humbly welcome you to the Rogue Researchers channel.
The positive feedback that the first episode received, on the Outposts of Saqsaywaman series, was overwhelming. It was greatly appreciated by the one-man production crew, the Rogue Researcher, Bob Newton. Thanks to all.
In this excursion, the second episode in the Outposts of Saqsaywaman series, we'll be visiting the archaeological site of Puca Pucara. Saqsaywaman is perched above the ancient shoreline of Lake Morkill, that once occupied the cauldron that Cusco is nestled into. Cusco's altitude is 11,152 feet, and Saqsaywaman is at 12,142 feet, which is a rise of 990 feet, in under a mile. Lake Morkill was a deep lake, because that's a 6-foot rise per foot up. Puca Pucara, translated from Quechua, means the Red Fortress, because the iron content in the stone turns them red. Especially, in the colors provided by the changing weather conditions, sunrises, and sunsets. While I was sorting through my video clips and pictures for this episode, I thought about my first impression of the fortress. That first impression of the fortress has transitioned over the years, as I've grasped its strategic importance along the Inca Trail. Especially, after I studied the footprint of the archaeological site, the placement, orientation, construction techniques, and connecting the architectural styles used during pre-Inca times.
The view from within the confines of the fortress grounds is far-reaching from any given point you stand, and it's quite evident the perfect location for its designed purpose.
As the expansion of the Inca Empire continued, and more lands were acquired, the need to protect Cusco and the Sacred Valley became a top priority. Puca Pucara is a multi-tiered fortress, whose construction has been accredited to the 9th Sapa Inca, Pasha Kutek. However, it's only been theorized that in haste, Pasha Kutek built the fort due to the resistance from the conquered Wari and Kilki cultures that were being assimilated into his expanding Inca Empire. After further research, I believe the footprint wasn't constructed by the Inca, but more than likely the people that created the original bastion were either the Wari or Kilki cultures.
Puca Pucara. Puca Pucara. Puca Pucara.
Please excuse Bob, this was our 4th or 5th hike from Tombo Maichai to Cusco, and he was pretending he was an Inca warrior coming back from a patrol along the Inca Trail. By road it's about 10 kilometers to the historical Plaza de Armas, in Cusco, but on this trip, we took a different way back. So, further on in the video, there's a treat that awaits you.
I feel in order to understand the people, you must get the feel of the lands they walked upon.
We preferred to enter the site from this side, because of the panoramic view of the river valley, and a section of the royal gardens that lay downstream from Tombo Maichai. One of the keys to understanding the Chincanas, the underground network of passages that linked Cusco, Saqsaywaman, and the outposts together, is you have to discern the characteristics of the geology that they are encased in.
Puca Pucara was constructed atop a large, jagged pyramidal-shaped pinnacle of limestone, that was deposited when the rise of the Andes Mountains thrust it from sea level to 12,140 feet, which is 3,700 meters. The thick crust of blue-grey Yucay limestone can be found scattered all over the province of Cusco, and it was the dominant source of construction material in the region.
From this vantage point, I can imagine the sunsets are breathtakingly beautiful throughout the year.
The blue-grey Yucay limestone is considered to be a softer stone on the hardness scale. It was easier to work on and hold its shape, especially with the tools we know they had during those earlier times. As the limestone was formed, there were different elements that saturated the ancient seabed before it hardened. As the limestone was formed, there were different metals that saturated the layer before it hardened. Iron and lead made the limestone harder, which makes the material easier to chisel or grind into shape. The iron strengthens the soft stone, and the lead made it easier to work with their primitive tools. Below the upper platform, we can see the mixture of soil and stone that supports the upper tiers and buttresses that surround the fortress. The thick layer of Yucay limestone is riddled with natural passages that are exposed to the surface, and the earlier cultures utilized them for many different reasons and purposes.
As you can see, the colors in the stone are a reflection of the seasons, as the different ores and minerals leach through, slowly eroding the soluble ingredients in the mix. Tucked away in an obscure offshoot, we find this heavily eroded and shaped protrusion that Jesus Gamarra calls Hanan Pasha, meaning old stone. There's no mystery there, but where does the mystery lie? I think the mystery that needs to be solved is what the original purpose of the fortress was, because some areas within the fortress have a spiritual energy to them, and a ceremonial feel also.
Back in 2013, when we were on our first tour with Jesus Gamarra, Yen Peter de Jong helped to bridge the language barrier and translate it for us. Kudos to Jan, because Jesus didn't speak much English, we didn't speak much Spanish, and the concept of the three worlds was still unknown territory. The walls that surround the Heartstone create a small amphitheater and provide shade from the sun's brutal, afternoon rays. The Heartstone's positioning made me believe that this is where the Inca runners, called chasquis, stood, to pass on their messages from elsewhere. In reflection, I now look at the cosmogony of the three worlds as a point of view that has merit. Because I believe it's their attempt to show us their view of the ancient Andean people from the inside. That said, there is another facet of history that the Gamarras assembled, I feel worthy of checking out, and that's their claim that the original Babylon and the Tower of Babel was in Cusco. They also claim that Cusco and the Sacred Valley were the city of kings.
The royal garden located at the foot of the fortress has an enchanting call emanating from it. Whispering softly, "What I once was, I no longer am." I mentioned there was a treat at the end of this video, and we're ready to deliver, so here's a sneak peek of some footage we borrowed from another excursion in the series. We have to finish the picture of this magnificent fortress and build the image of what it once was that reveals its dominance over the Inca Trail into Cusco.
Aha, I found it. That's the way we're going to start. Puca Pucara from the lower angle. From down here, those walls would have been formidable. especially with 1,000 Inca up there with their weapons and big rocks. Check this out. And we can call these Inca walls if we want. But are they?
Where grand terraces once stood surrounding Puca Pucara, there are rows of canua trees planted in their place, because the stone walls were disassembled and transported to Cusco to be repurposed. Sadly, this is the last terrace wall standing at the base of the fort. Thanks for joining this excursion into another outpost of Saqsaywaman, Puca Pucara, the Red Fortress.
Puca Pucara. Puca Pucara. Puca Pucara.
Until next time, the Rogue Researchers channel wishes you the best journeys into the world of what once was, no longer is.
Until next time, bye bye.